All right, let's get the microphone test out of the way here. Let me know if you can hear me across the various chats, that being YouTube, Twitch, and X.com. If you are in one of the Twitch chats or the X chat, I do suggest that you follow the links that I've provided either in the profile or in the chat directly to the YouTube channel. That is primarily where I monitor chat because it is where the bulk of people do hang out to chat. And yeah, go ahead and head over to Landy's Crypto Corner on YouTube. Follow that link. You can hit sub. You can jump right into the chat. And we're going to get started here in a little less than a minute. Just let me know if you can hear me across the various live streams. We do not have any private live streams going today, so we had a little bit of some network difficulties on the West Coast yesterday. So we have we have to still repair some of the issues that are going on the private stream side of things. That is usually just for people who cannot access YouTube, X, or Twitch in this case. So as long as you can hear me, we're going to get started. Let's see. Mic is good. The crowd is ready. All right. Let's go ahead and go ahead and switch over to Bitcoin here on the daily. Hello and welcome to Landy's Crypto Corner. Today is February 16th, 2024, and this is our Friday live stream. This is our weekly wrap-up live stream where we just kind of talk about price action, maybe do a little bit of off-the-cuff research and chat as well. For things that might be related to Bitcoin or crypto. We will analyze the current move on Bitcoin. We'll also take a look at Dixie, gold, and traditional markets. And if there is enough time, which there should be today, I will take a look at a few alts because I do know that some of you like your alts because you're degenerates. Also, if you would like to see some stocks, I would suggest that you put those in there. Don't put them in right now. Wait until we have, wait until we're wrapping up the stream or the bulk of the analysis on the stream first, as it will get buried in the chat. There's quite a few of you chatting today and here with me. Oh, music's still running. Thank you. Let me get that under control. Yeah. All right. I appreciate that. It's a Friday chill stream, so no biggies. We got quite a few new subscribers to YouTube and the X account as well. So I do want to welcome all of you. Thank you for hanging out with me. If you're just discovering what it is that I do in terms of TA, I am primarily a volatility trader. I have experience, vast experience in the world of trading and technical analysis. I also do assist in training people going for their FINRA market maker exam, so their Series 2457s. So I do have experience there in on the traditional market side of things as well. And you know, we cover the primary the primary tenets of technical analysis: trend, support and resistance, volatility and momentum. Here, of course, we also integrate other confluences you'll find along the way, whether it's volume or fibs or really anything you can think of. There's not much that you can ask that I'm not familiar with, but I do have a very specific style that I adhere to when performing technical analysis, and it has worked out quite well. So for those of you that have been here for quite a while, you know how accurate we are. And, this isn't about being accurate. It's about learning, understanding, so that you can plan your trades around areas of interest and price action. So let's jump into it with Bitcoin today. We might do some little off-the-cuff stuff related to mining because there was quite a few questions that I received about mining Bitcoin. as it relates to the previous live stream. All right, so Bitcoin on the daily here is still pushing that upper second standard deviation area. So we do have BBWP at a 96 over 94. So that is the Bollinger Band with percentile. So it's basically price volatility within and, well, we would say within the bands. Technically, it would be outside the upper second standard deviation because a typical set of Bollinger Bands is just the basis and two standard deviations away from it. In this case, the Landy Bands indicator, which is free and linked in the video description below, provides the BBWP, which is a modification of BBW, which is the Bollinger Band width. Yes, that has other meanings that are unrelated, but in technical analysis, it is Bollinger Band width, and then there's Bollinger Band percent. Those are usually two separate indicators. The caretaker is the developer of BBWP, which is a solution basically to really gauge volatility metrics. And we can get directional volatility based on price trading above or below the basis, and especially above or below the upper first standard deviation. So I have a slight modification. This is a triple Bollinger Band setup. So we have 1, 2, 3 standard deviations away from the basis to the upside, and 1, 2, 3 to the downside. And BBWP is the volatility within the bands and sometimes outside of the bands. So that is price volatility as it relates to the Bollinger Band set. In this case, we can see that Bitcoin is still hanging out above the upper first standard deviation, which keeps it very bullish, quite frankly, and in an expansive phase. We are not yet seeing a contraction phase or a cooling off phase just yet. That is confirmed by Bitcoin, of course, trading above the upper first in this case, and BBWP is still up over the moving average. We can look at that in charted format. And again, thank you, Caretaker, for allowing me to pilfer your code for this, as I did get permission to add that indicator code to my indicator because it is free. All right, BBWP is still up over the moving average, so this move is not yet over. Could it be ending soon? We don't know. We'll have to gauge. If we do start to see the upper first catch up to price action and or price action get below it, we will start to see BBWP get under the moving average there. Is it in a critical zone? Yes. Does it still have the ability to continue? Yes. So that does mean that as long as Bitcoin is above that upper first, the upper second remains the target, and even places between the upper second and upper third. It's rare when we see expansion like this on the daily that we would see the upper third closed above, but that is always a possibility in high volatility environments. So please keep that in mind. This upper third is now sitting there at around 56,500. The upper second is right around the current wick high here, coming in at just under 53,000. Now, that's a pretty important area. So just for context, we'll jump over to the support and resistance chart. And this is typically the chart that you'll see on the Bitcoin in 60 seconds video shorts that I do here on YouTube and on x.com. But in this case, I haven't done one in a while. I should actually do one again. But we can see that Bitcoin is holding on to this weekly on a closing basis so far right here at 41.8. It did test up into this September 21 weekly swing high. Now, this was the first major high that was put in on the weekly before going down and testing the Wyckoff reaccumulation after the first all-time high at $65,000. And then subsequently, Bitcoin went on to tag around $69,000, making a higher high. Now, this is a very important weekly, less so the 40,800, but it is a valid weekly support resistance level. So we do have a bit of a zone between 50,800 and 51.8. And then, of course, if Bitcoin can get above this overhead resistance at that September of 2021 weekly swing high at just around $53,000, I would look for continuation into the mid $50,000 region, maybe even upper $50,000 region. There is only a few areas of heavy resistance overhead. Yes, there's some weeklies. Yes, there's a lot of volume up here, but it's really all about the monthly here at 58.8 to the monthly just above it at 61,350. So if Bitcoin can regain around 53, I would expect it to trade somewhere in the mid 50s, and then over time we would be targeting that 58.8 to around 61,350, and above there I would be looking for the all-time highs to get ran somewhere around that 65 to 69k. We can see how clean this has been in terms of support and resistance. It's just been walking price up for months now, since the beginning of 2023, and the macro low being put in around 15.5 on the wick lows here for spot. And in this case, really clean retests of levels all the way through. Had a clean test of these, $35,000 monthly weekly zone at 34,750, up to those weeklies at 36.2 to 3 to 37.7. Test right into that 38.5 monthly zone. Start regaining that, and the weekly above it at 39. Came up, tested around the weekly here on this candle at 41,800, which is a big area. We're going to get to that in just a moment. Got above it and sat on the weekly here at around 43.2 with a nice spike up there to 45, about $500 below the next monthly zone there at 45.5 to 47,000. Deviated around these weeklies, finally went up and tested this monthly zone officially over here in early January. Even got some nice closes in here, wicked up to the monthly swing high, that bear market swing high from 2022 at 48,230 to 40. Came back down, found support around the weeklies, found resistance at that same zone, and then came down for a perfect retest of this monthly level that had found as resistance prior. So we can see that the way Bitcoin is operating is that it's being very methodical about, tagging these levels as resistance and then retesting as support. That does mean that it is very likely that if Bitcoin puts in a daily high here, that we have the monthly swing high here at that 48,230 to 40, to this monthly here at 47 and 45.5 respectively, being very key areas to watch to the downside. Of course, if that 45.5 was dropped, I would still look at the tighter range prior to this most recent move up that took out the deviation of that range to the high side at around $45,000. That's this wick low, or wick high rather, over here that closed this set of candles just before ETF launch. We also then got the deviation highs there and then dump it off down to that monthly around the ETFs going live. And then, of course, things have just been marching up since then. And you can see that the last higher low is this consolidation structure right here on the weekly, on a close hanging around that, 43, 2 to 5 area. On the wick coming in just under 44. And that beautiful, beautiful retest of the weekly at 41,850. And then up and up and up we go, testing into that monthly again at 45.5. Took a break there in the lower term timeframes and then went right through and tested that 2022 monthly swing high at 48,230. Got the close right on the monthly there at 47, and then tested that bear market swing high. Got above it and then move it on up to the next levels here at the weeklies and monthly just above. So very clean. I really like what's going on here. This is how you know that professionals are kind of driving this market in terms of professional traders. You want to see CME over the degen exchanges like your Binances of the world in terms of open interest, and we are seeing that remain consistent. It might flip over the weekend. That's fine. But this looks really good. Let's go ahead and check on momentum on the daily here. This is a regular Stoch, not a Stoch RSI. There is a difference. Stoch RSI is velocity of RSI. A regular Stoch is measuring close over close price momentum. So in this case, we do see that it is in the overbought zone. This is typically where we see the biggest moves occur. And just for context, when did this get into the overbought zone? Let's go ahead and throw a horizontal on here. I'm sorry, a vertical, not a horizontal. We'll call it the 1st of February. And you can see that it got into the overbought zone. And I mentioned to you all here at the time that we typically see the biggest moves occur in where? The overbought and oversold zones of Stoke. Now, in this case, we saw this come in right around the consolidation here prior to the move up. And the criteria was if it breaks down from that consolidation low side, which on that day was the wick low into the weekly at 41,850. Then we're looking for Stoke to drop. We're looking for the low side of the tighter range to get dropped and then back down into that monthly weekly zone at the deviation lows. But on the other side of that, we had mentioned that, basically if Bitcoin can take out 43.9 to 44K, get above that weekly at 43, 2 to 3 on a close, take out the local structure. We're looking at that big move occurring. In order, we were looking over here initially to 45 to 46,000, and then the next big one being the 47,000 monthly to the wick high at 49. We did talk about 50K. 50K got hit shortly thereafter into the mid to low 50s, and that's exactly what we saw. So far, we have seen this come up and test just under $53,000. So very, very nice. But what you'll notice about this structure is that, there is some swing highs and lows in here, but on a close, we have the trend break right here coming in on the 30th of January. And then we have a higher low structure that was confirmed on the 7th of February. And we now have a trend break to uptrend. And what would we expect from here? Well, higher lows, quite frankly. Now, there's a few things to look out for in terms of structure. So I do want to kind of revisit some of this just to recap a little bit, because we do basically have higher low structure here already. We've got the swings coming in this manner, which does put the swing low right there where Bitcoin entered that overbought zone. And we have now seen, Bitcoin in the overbought initiate its large expansive move. And that's going to remain true even to the downside. When it's in the oversold zone, that's typically where you're going to see the largest moves occur. Now, it's all in the context of trend and support and resistance levels as well. So it has to, be in a trend in that direction in most cases, not all. And or it needs to be either breaking through resistance or breaking down from support to really initiate those moves. And typically you want to see that in combination with low volatility that then can kick off high volatility by breaking those either resistance or support areas. So in this case, we do have a nice uptrending structure here. We're missing one really good component that I would like to see for sustainability on the longer term timeframes as it relates to this daily here. And that is put in another swing higher low, right? Now the danger from there would be, it puts in a high, let's say for argument's sake, as an example, doesn't mean that it's going to put in a high here, but let's say it puts in a high here and it comes back down somewhere around, the basis. Maybe it sits on this area over here. Who knows, right? We're just, given some examples here. So this would be an example of another higher low. So puts in a high, puts in a higher low, and now we have full trend on the daily. And in this case, that's not out of the question. We do see that, things are pretty extended here on the daily, but they can stay extended. And we're going to look at this on some higher term timeframes as it relates to the daily to kind of gauge that as well. But the other thing to be aware of is even when it puts in let's say it puts in a higher low, you got to be aware of, lower highs or equal highs that then come down and take out the last low. So, or the most recent higher low. So basically, as it stands right now, it would be, wherever the next higher low comes in would be, a trend break, right? If price closed below it. Right now, the trend break is only going to occur if Bitcoin were to close back below 41.8. From here, without putting in, some sort of a higher low structure, I think that's very, I think that's not the first thing to be looking for. We need to see, where the next higher low comes in. It would be out of the ordinary, and it would be at least initially considered a fake out if we saw price just immediately drop uh, from here back down to 41.8 and take out that higher low. That's not the first thing we look for. First thing would be, higher low, possibly lower highs, or wherever this higher low comes in. If that was to be taken out to the downside, you're looking for a trend break, and then you're looking at possibility for that becoming a downtrend. In this case, we are still in a heavy uptrend. BBWP supports it when going to the 2-day. You can see that we have BBWP supporting as well as Bollinger Band expansion. Upper second standard deviation is right here at the 51.5 region. Upper first is above the closing highs of the last higher high as it relates to price right now. And that's coming in at 48,000. That is kind of the big area to be aware of, around that 48,000, because of the bear market swing high from March of 2022 coming in at 48,240. Bearish reclaim of that, and then we got to start looking a little bit deeper down into the monthlies there at 47 and 45.5 respectively. Of course, taking into account horizontal support and resistance, but the daily is right there at the monthly at 47K. Of course, we've got the close coming in here at 45 to 46K, bracketing the next monthly down there from the support and resistance chart over here. That being this zone 47 to 45.5. You can see how perfectly that was tested and how we got the closes in there, how the bear market swing high was swung, how these areas were retested one level at a time on the way back up, and then flipped to support on each candle into the weeklies now. And the weekly is still holding support here at 51.8 as it stands on a close. So just keep that in mind. We're not looking for really anything to happen until we see local structure change. And in the lower term time frames, like you can go down to an hourly or 4-hour or 15-minute chart or whatever you want, you're going to see that it's just a lower term time frame consolidation around that weekly at 51.8 right now, with a few spikes down into liquidity there just below it. Now on the 2-day, we're seeing Bollinger Band expansion. We're seeing volatility follow through with that. And this is telling me that the move is not yet over. So until we see Bitcoin lose the upper second at minimum, and then follow that up with a loss of the upper first, this move is sideways and up, right? And the upper second coming in right there locally at 51.5. The upper first coming in at 48K. It can come down here. It can even refuel and head back up, right? If it does lose the upper first, that's where you need to keep eyes on horizontal support and resistance around that 45 to 45.5 to the basis here, which is coming in at 44,300 or so. Now that is above the prior consolidation highs, and I do think in the manner in which this is expanded, it would be unlikely for price to get there, but not out of the question, at least maybe on a wick, if things did get aggressive to the downside. Right now, I do want to make sure that you understand that everything's pointing up at the moment. But that could change over the weekend, especially if it starts to consolidate heavily and then start to lose its local structure lows on the lower term timeframes, which we will investigate in just a moment. We do have the 2-day closing with Saturday's candle. So keep an eye on the 2-day and the 3-day because it's closing with Saturday's candle. The 3-day is the other thing to keep an eye on here. Is this was really tight compression on the 3-day. Beautiful spike off that lower second to re-expansion to the upside after taking out the highs here. 76 over 42 with BBWP. Looks beautiful. This is straight up liftoff for the 3-day and one of the more important time frames that we've been monitoring. When looking at 2-day, 3-day Stochastic momentum, we do need to keep in mind that the 3-day is at 44,750. The 2-day is at 45.6 to 7. We'll call it. Let's kind of give it a range there. It's in the 45,670 area. Uh, if price was to fall a little bit, you might see this change around, but it's getting closer, but it's unless we start seeing price come down and start converging with those momentum pivots, it's still sideways and up. The 3-day is heavily angled to the upside here. That has now followed through with the 4-day expansion, as we talked about previously. And guess what? When does the 4-day close? It closes on Saturday. So this weekend, you do need to keep an eye on price action. And I would be keeping a very close eye on the 2-day, the 3-day, and the 4-day. We are getting, price action above the upper second standard deviation. This is kicking off more aggressive expansion to the upside. The upper second is currently at, 49,570. So if it can close on Saturday above, 49,600, we'll call it, we would see continued aggressive expansion to the upside in the context of the 4-day chart. But the upper first is right there at 46,774. So really the line in the sand for expansion on the 4-day, where it would, be a little bit more prone to come down further, is if we started to see the 4-day close below the upper first. Then we can start looking somewhere around the basis. And, that's coming in just above the prior consolidation here, around that upper $43,000 area to the 44K area. That's still not my first take on this, especially if it closes above the upper second. We see BBWP is confirming up over the moving average here. We see that, in a charted format, this is straight up liftoff. So looks very good. We're looking for that to continue to bleed over into the 5-day, where we did see the prior 5-day closure kick off expansion above the upper second standard deviation. The upper second is coming in at 51,200, so it's local. It is in the local range. So if that area was dropped, I would be looking for the potential for Bitcoin to come down and tag somewhere around its upper first. And this is coming in at $47,000, which is the monthly level. So that is a monthly close open right there at 47K and the upper first on the 5-day. Of course, if that area was lost, we look back to the basis. This is still working its way up into the mid zone of those weeklies at between 41.8 and 43.2. So that's basically, the equivalent of looking right back to this consolidation structure in the weeklies. That's still not my first take. This has got to take out some levels to the downside and really start closing below the upper seconds, and even in most cases losing the upper first on the bands. So not that it's out of the question, but it's not my first take on price right now. We are seeing confirmed volatility expansion of BBWP. Of course, we see that reflected in the bands by getting this expansion up above the upper first and second standard deviation of the Bollinger Bands. And sometimes you'll see on the longer term timeframes, as it relates to the lower term timeframes, sometimes it'll just come down and test in and around the upper seconds if it's going to remain really, really bullish. Yeah, that looks beautiful. Price looks beautiful. And what we're really looking for is for this to continue on into the weekly here with BBWP especially. So we see expansion on all of the major timeframes below the weekly. And on Sunday, what we're looking for is for BBWP, or price volatility expansion in the context of the bands here, to get above the moving average, and for this moving average to get a positive slope. Once we see that, that will continue to confirm what we're already seeing on the bands, and that would be, Bitcoin pushing that upper second standard deviation. If it can close above, it's going to kick off more aggressive expansion to the upside from a band and BBWP perspective. In this case, we're looking at 51,750, so 51,800 basically right there at the weekly. The Bitcoin is desperately trying to hang on to in the lower term timeframes. And if it can, well, we're going to see the bands expand again. And in this case, I would expect the upper second to be somewhere around price. If it does close up against it, I would expect the expansion to stick somewhere around price, but just kind of leg it up a little bit further. Now, this does keep open the possibility if it closes within the upper second standard deviation. Keep in mind that it does keep open the possibility of coming back to where the upper first. Where is that? It's at 45,600 or 45.5 you can take right there at that monthly zone. So again, everything is pointing to the primary downside areas being, basically if Bitcoin starts to drop the weekly zone here around 50,800 on the low side and lose what I'll consider an order block candle on the daily around 50K. Keep a very close eye on the March 2022 monthly swing high at 48,230 to the monthlies here at 47. If it starts to dig in there, keep an eye on 45.5. That's going to be the primary area to look for. And then below there, you could take 45, but these are all secondary areas, 45 to 44 and a half, 44, all the way down to the weeklies, of course, at 43, 2 to 3 to 41.8. That's still not my first take. I would be looking for higher low structure first, come back to it later. I do want to be very clear about that. The weekly is presenting an exciting setup. The other reason why the weekly is presenting an exciting setup is because any close above 48,500, which again is just above that March 2022 bear market swing high at 48,240 or 48,230. Well, we're looking at momentum fully shifting on the weekly from a Stoke perspective. Right now, the K read is up over the D read, and we're looking for both the K and the D read to get a positive slope. That is primarily all I got for you on Bitcoin. Let's go ahead and head into the lower term timeframes and check and see how things are doing. Now, this is a sideways consolidation. I don't have an opinion as to whether or not this will break up or down, but we can define some easy and clear criteria. Let's go ahead and turn on volume. And because this was a break within the context of local structure to higher highs, we can take the high volume highs, our high volume high candles, and mark those off. So we've got a high volume high candle right here. We can mark off the close open to the wick high. So let's do that now. And this can help you deconstruct the order book. And what you're basically looking for is, we're looking for these high volume areas to become your support, right? So you're looking for that high volume area after price passes it and comes back to it. You're looking for that previous resistance to flip into support. We saw this locally on this first candle here. We see another high volume high coming in on this candle just above it. It did close above there. So what did we see after this occurred? As we saw that price consolidated and came back down from this high volume candle to test into this high volume candle's wick from close to wick high, and then closed to wick high here, kind of holding things down in this zone. Finally got that deviation above. You can mark this candle. It was not significantly higher volume, but you can mark it if you like. It's not really as relevant in terms of volume, but if you did want to mark it, you can. It is just going to clutter up your chart. You'll see that that we did see this area then play in this high volume candle to this lesser volume candle, but it did hold things down as Bitcoin came down to test this high volume candle's high side. We saw a deviation above, and then that's where the primary bit of volume came in. And you can see that I'm not marking any of the higher volume that's in between. So I'm only marking the high volume that's actually creating swing and close highs above. So I'm actually going to mark that entire candle from here because this was the highest volume candle and there was no close higher. And then what you can do is you could take the fill, the rectangle and have it fill. And we can go and we can mark these off as zones of interest. So this is basically the same thing that I've shown you guys in the past as it relates to continuation moves. But this is just a quick and dirty version for local price action. So we've got major areas of support and resistance, and quite honestly, you could see that the deviation high here as we kind of zoom into price. We can even get rid of the bands here. You don't necessarily need the bands. I'll show you how you can use those for when price is either breaking out or down. But you can see how clean price is. Because these were high volume areas, you know that there was a lot of, in this case, the bids outweighed the asks, but it's not really about that delta. It's more about the area of interest. It's about it being an area of interest on the order book. And this is a very good way to deconstruct the order book to track continuation, in this case to the upside, and then mean reversion back to flip those areas after continuation into support. And if then the supports break down, then we can start targeting those lower levels. So you'll see that, this area to the downside is, encompassing a few of those longer term time frame support and resistance zones that we talked about. So we've got 50,900, basically 51K. Well, this is right in the weekly there at 50,800, all the way to this area right here at the weekly at 51.8. So that's a weekly zone, 50,800 to 51.8. And we can see how that area has acted as, support and resistance. Prior big candle resistance, only one candle, but we saw the volume come in. So big area of interest, comes and dips down for liquidity into that high volume candles liquidity zone, you can call it. There's other terms for it, but I'll get into that stuff as we continue our live streams over time. We see the next biggest high volume candle just above there after the spike to 52,100. With that close coming in specifically at 51.8 right on that weekly, but it did claim it. Came back down into this zone of liquidity, spiked into the zone above, higher low, moved through it into another area. We see that bit of volume come in on this high, mean reverts right back into the liquidity of this candle. And then you can see how this helps you set things up. After it found liquidity here, it popped up, deviated above this higher volume, found the real volume node up there, found the asks. All right, so the bids lifted the offer up there, and then got pretty swiftly beat up right back into this 51.8 weekly. And then you can see this smaller candle up here that was holding price down. Aggregate volume is probably equal to what we saw over here on the deviation high anyway, which is why you see volume levels like this as it compares to this lower volume in between. When we see three major highs, if we were to aggregate all that volume, you're likely seeing an equivalent amount on that deviation. Then right back into liquidity, step it down to the mid 51,000, down to the mid to low 51,000 at 51,350, back into this zone of liquidity. Finds some short-term resistance on the way back into 51.8 to 52,100. Stays there, goes up, tags this guy's zone up here, deviates this guy, tags above it, deviates. Now we're just getting sideways price action. You're saying, well, why didn't you mark this area? Well, that's a low. These are highs in the context of areas of high volume that we've already marked, and nothing has broken out. So unless we see a breakout to the upside above that 52,890, then we can look for higher volume. Wherever that comes in, we can track continuation. And in this case, if we see the support down here from this higher volume candle at 50,000 or 51K to 50,800, which is also that weekly, then we're looking at price stepping its way down to the next more relevant higher volume areas, which, by the way, are coming in right over here on the highs. And then you just work your ways from highs to lows if in terms of support and resistance, and continue on from there. All right, wanted to get that out of the way quickly. And staying on the topic of Bitcoin, I got quite a few questions about mining. And I had mentioned the decentral technologies when I said, like, hey, you guys, if you're in Bitcoin and you want to stay in crypto, I suggest that you get a lower powered, miner of some sort, and just do some home mining, if for nothing else, to understand how mining works, how UTXOs work, and managing your own wallets and keys directly right there in front of you. Yes, if you have hardware wallets, you're managing your wallets and keys, but as it relates to mining, you're controlling your own node. And I got some questions about like, hey, which place do you like? There's a lot of different resellers of equipment. I like Decentral Tech because were the first partners with BitAxe, but they sell all kinds of miners. Um, they sell space heater miners, they sell all that kind of stuff. And just to give you an idea of what I would be leaning towards if you're newer is, if you don't want to mess around with do it yourself stuff, which is, going to be involve a lot of soldering. And also, they do reball the ASICs that they pull off of the bigger ant miners, and then they've created these smaller boards for you to just use the one ASIC chip, but you would have to do all of that yourself. If you don't want to do that yourself, there is the BitAxe miners, and they're very nice. They are a little pricey if you're just wanting to get into it. That's why Nerd Miner is probably your best bet. Those are about $65. You're not really doing anything else other than validating your own transactions or participating in what's called the Bitcoin lottery side of things, because you're not going to be able to mine enough in most cases to actually mine a block. But if you are looking for something, the BitX Ultra is on back order, but they are still taking orders. These guys do a great job. They're based in the UK, so if you are not, if you're not in Europe, you're gonna have to wait for a little while. But they're fast. They keep you up to date on every step of the transaction, and they're very good at communicating when things are coming over. And when I ordered BitAxe products before, I'm just going to give you my experience. I don't have any affiliation with them, so you're not going to see any reference links or anything like that. I'm sorry, referral links. But what I would just do is, it's Sam, it's d-central.tech. And I've linked it in the chat a few times before, but in this case, this is one of the one of the shops that is basically providing resale resources for these guys who create the BitAxe boards. And in this case, I've had a good experience with them. All right, so that there is other places. There's other resellers that are also very good. They might even have better prices. What I will tell you is you're going to be participating in mining pools in most cases. You can solo mine, but you're probably going to need more than 550 gigahashes if you're really looking to mine a block. If you are looking on the other side of things, so Bobby reminded me, because he was talking about a space heater, that these guys actually have space heaters, and I had another question come in after last stream that those are like 20 watts, Cheryl, the BitAxe. I mean, they're 15 to 20 or something like that, or even lower power than that. Nerd miners are like basically no power. You're not mining and pulling power. Now, if you want to pull power, you get an Antminer S17 Space Heater Edition, which is about 1,000 watts, which is like a home heating solution. This is gonna, this will do around 31 terahashes a second. So you're looking at with one of these, one of the things that I would advise. So I had some of you come and ask, like, I mine at home. Okay. I have S19Js right now. I've got an Apollo BTC miner. I'm on the wait list for the Apollo 2s, the node, full node and standard editions, which are plugins. Apollo is one of the most exciting ones, in my opinion. They can go 6 to 10 terahashes, but you're running a full node. It's a super slick package. It's super quiet. Even the one that I'm running right now, it goes up to 3.8 terahashes. And it's a little bit loud, but it's a full node. I can add on to it, all kinds of fun stuff. But if you're looking for like heating solutions, which I had somebody contact me about. All right, just pick your proper power cord for your region. And what I would suggest is that you upgrade the cooling to some of the Arctic or Noctua. I prefer Noctua fans. That will up your cost, right? And then I would tell you to get the upgraded heat sinks. That's going to get you, you know, that's going to put you in about an $826 before shipping price range. But and these are out of stock right now. They're not even being, you can't order these ones currently. But they have, that's what I'm just giving you this as an example. You can look at resellers or places that make these yourself, and I suggest that you do your research. But in terms of what you're looking for, that's probably about 1,000 watt heating solution that also generates 31 terahashes per second. So you're looking at a pretty powerful miner there as a larger room heater. There's also the S9s. Now, if you're not familiar with the S9 ant miners, you can get one on its own for the top level that they're selling right now. If you want upgraded cooling, for instance, and you don't want to do it yourself, is about 145. What I can tell you is that that's quite a lot for Noctua fans. If you have the ability to go get a Noctua fan yourself, you go with standard cooling. But an S9 is going to throw a lot of heat. These generate about 14 terahashes. And so it's a much smaller heating unit, but it's also not pulling nearly as much. So, they're talking about decibels. It's about 90 to 110 decibels at full power, and it operates between 300 and 1500 watts. So you can adjust. You can get up to that 1400 14 terahashes, but it's going to be fairly loud. So if you wanted to push it that high, you're going to want to get better cooling. No, you don't really need it. No, I've mined blocks with my home rigs. Now I'm running S19s, which are going to be quite a bit more in terms of they're in the 100 terawatt or terahash. They also pull a lot, and they're hooked up to solar. So, but in this case, they have the they can get the decibels down to 40 to 50. If you go the Noctua edition, running between 600 and 800 watts, they're getting about 45 decibels, which is, it's a space heater at that point, right? You're gonna hear it. It's gonna throw out consistent heat. But yeah, 14 terahashes a second, and that's really, you can hit a sweet spot of around 10 terahashes with these for cheap. But you're going to want to upgrade the cooling. If you want them to do it for you, they're going to charge you. I would go Noctua, the NF-A14s. They're very good fans. They get the S9 under control. I sold my S9s, and for my particular setup, I went bigger with S19s. If you are looking to just dive fully into it, I do suggest you go and you research mining in terms of the miners themselves. But if you really want to get deep into it, they do offer like the S17s here, and then the S19Js. So they are a reseller. They're out of stock, but these do about 104 terahashes. They are incredibly loud. And they're pulling about 3,000 watts, but you can adjust that. So mine are adjusted down to meet the spec of my solar system that's dedicated to them. But this will definitely heat up a room. Let me tell you that. Especially you get a couple of them. You do have to consider cooling. But if you really want to dive into the deep end, they have, there's plenty of resellers out there. But my personal opinion is that if you're just starting out, BitAxe is a wonderful project. It's very well supported, and getting the all-in-one here like the BitAxe Max even is a step down. It doesn't have a case basically, which I would advise that you add the North American or EU plug to your order, And, if you're over there in the EU or in North America, it's going to be $160. You would need to provide the case yourself. Um, and this one's doing 400 gigahashes. And honestly, if you're going to look into this, I would spring for the Ultra because it's already got its case. It's 3D printed case. It's got a stand. You add the power supply unit, you're looking at $200. I would spend the money. Me personally, I like these. They are on back order, so if you are looking for these, they're gonna go quick, and they are coming out with a super, and I believe it goes from 550 gigahashes to around 650 or 600. And they're going to be including that pretty soon. They're taking apart, ant miners and harvesting the ASICs to do this project after they went into full production with the BitAxe main boards. This also has, I want to touch on a few things here because I got so many questions about it. This has Wi-Fi, and just go ahead and read the description. But the big thing is you don't need anything. You don't need a computer or a dedicated PC for this. You set it up. You can even set it up over Wi-Fi, and you can integrate it to a pool, and then you just go there. You just leave it in the corner. This thing's gonna pull. They're rated. I think mine is only pulling 15 watts. Well, I have two of them, but they're different editions. One is pulling 20. One is pulling 15. So it's really, it's a cool thing. If you want to embark on this. So what are we looking at? We're looking at about 20 joules a terahash. So it's even lower wattage. And then they 3D print everything for you. They're getting them. They're getting this stuff really nailed down, and I think they're doing a great job with it. I mean, for $200 shipped, I believe you do have to pay shipping on top of that, but they do offer pretty economical shipping options for you, and I highly recommend getting into that. The other one was Nerd Miner. So Nerd Miners, if you just want to do lottery mining and learn, Nerd Miners are great, and they are incredibly well priced. So we can just I'm going to touch on this, and then we'll get into, it's a Friday, we're just chilling, right? Then we'll get into some of the other analysis on Dixie Gold. Yeah, I saw you over there. Dixie Gold and TradFi I haven't done yet. We're just following up with some of the other stuff. But the Nerd Miner T3 is what I would, if you just want to try it out and you have the money, you go software pre-installed. Have them flash the device for you so that you can learn. You can always grab the software yourself and flash it. But if you just want to get up and running, just do software pre-installed. It does raise the price a little bit because somebody's got to do that for you. But shipping is free on these. They are going fast. Wait, are they even available? Yes, they're still available. All right, so sometimes they run low on stock, but they restock pretty quickly. But what I would tell you is I personally like the gray case. The gray case is pretty nice. So you can also get the USB to USB-C data power cable if you like. You can include that. That raises your price up a little bit, but it's like $4. So if you needed a dedicated cable, you don't want to go and buy one or harvest one from your, one of your other devices that you have, you can just plug this in, and it's great, and it works so well. So these, by the way, these are lottery miners, but you're doing the same basic. And the reason why they call them lottery miners is because you're entering the lottery. You might get a block, and people have, but it's primarily, this is using 1 watt of power. So, in a year, this remarkable device achieves a hash rate of 70 8 kilohashes per second. So you're not looking at you're not looking at very much hash power. That's why it's a lottery miner. But it gives you the opportunity to, manage everything and learn it right there in front of you. So these things are really cool. And if you are into Bitcoin, I do suggest getting one. And I wish I had affiliate links to all this stuff. I don't. This is just, I'm passionate about, if you are going to be in this, you're going through all the effort to trade and learn TA on Bitcoin, and you're holding Bitcoin, and you're on centralized exchanges and stuff like that. First off, get the hell off of there. Get a cold wallet. I would, me personally, I would not go with Ledger or even Treasure at this point. Although Treasure has a better track record so far. They still, the big guys kind of have some issues here and there, as do some of the little guys. I personally like Blockstream's Jade device. It's a little bit on the pricey side though. So if you are going to go with something, Treasure has a Bitcoin only wallet. They also offer other wallets. Ledger's got some goofy code. They put some goofy code in their apps, and I'm not a fan of what they're doing over there. There's also other solutions. Cold Card is now launching, and people are on wait lists, should be getting them soon. And there's all kinds of solutions. You can even make your own hardware wallet via USB. You can run your own node on an old laptop or an old computer if you want to for Bitcoin. Just download Bitcoin Core and get it running. Learn it, understand it, and I'm telling you, you need to. This is going to be a something that is going to be at the core of what's happening over the coming years. So learn it now while you have time. You don't want to play catch up with stuff like that because you'll just be outpaced, especially just hanging at home. All right. Cool. Do we have any questions? Let's go ahead and we can keep the beats on in the background. Who cares about that? All right. It's a chill Friday. I'm having some coffee. We talked Bitcoin price action. I hopefully gave you guys a very good idea of what I'm looking for in terms of price and the criteria. All right. So, let me look here. So we've got, I don't know why Spin's message was redacted. That wasn't me. Hi, Cheryl, Sam, welcome. Baba is here. Who else have we got here? We've got, I thought I saw No Name is in here. Bobby is here. I saw Don is here as well. Hi, Don. We've got Spin. And we've got quite a few others chatting in here. There's a lot of chat going on, so I'm a little bit behind here. All right. Yeah, 48K for a higher low. After that, touching 60K. Nice. I mean, if that's what you're reading off of this. But yeah, I mean, use your judgment, right? I'm not. We got to see higher low structure, and this particular move isn't even over from the daily perspective just yet. Could it be, this weekend? Looking for, at minimum, swing high to swing low. Just to give you guys some perspective on that, like where would this put in a high? Well, from the daily perspective, this would put in a high on any close. Let's get rid of this. Let's go ahead and determine where this would put in a high. Technically, you're going to see a lot of indicators throw a closing high as soon as this closes below yesterday's open, right? From here, if it does, that's going to be on any closes below 51,850. So basically right there at that weekly, right? That's where you would see most indicators throw a high. But realistically, a closing high is going to come in on any close below the open from Wednesday, which is at 49,724. So you can see a swing into that area, which just so happens to be the close open here, where we have a daily order block now. You know, this is looking more sideways and up than not, even now. But if it does start to drop that, you know, yesterday's wick low especially, we'll have a nice swing high put in. The swing high, of course, being yesterday's high at 52,890. If we see a close below yesterday's wick low, which is coming in at 51,350 or so, we would see the swing high up here confirmed. And if you do want to throw a swing indicator on, there's plenty of free ones on the market. This is just a random one I grabbed. Then you'll see a swing high put in, right? But the closing high wouldn't be in until we saw a close below the open at 49,724. So we need to see a swing high and a closing high put in to even start looking for higher low structure to pick up. As it stands right now, you know, it is a low percentage hit rate for a run all the way back after putting in a swing high and closing high, to run all the way back for the higher swing low down here at 42,250, let alone that 41.8 at the weekly. There's quite a lot of you know, support to get through in order to do something like that. As it stands now, that's not my first take. I'd be looking for higher low structure to develop. And then if it can take out 53K, that's where we're looking, you know, mid 50s to upper 50s, possibly even 60. So I'm seeing want a cold card, or I want a cold card. Yeah, cold cards look cool. There was another device that's like a cold card that I ordered, but they were taking forever to ship it, so I ended up canceling the order. That they're like an air gapped solution as well. And they're super nice, and I forget the name of it off the top of my head, but they're like candy bar style. They got all the fun stuff, the cameras and the air gapping and the screens. And I don't know, it looks like a fancy women's lipstick thing, to be quite honest. I don't know. It's a premium looking device, whereas Cold Card looks like it's a mix between premium and nerd tech. But they both basically have the same kinds of features. So yeah, the company starts with an F, like Fortify, no. Fortinet, no. It'll come to me. I just don't remember the name off the top of my head. While we're debating on what the heck the name of that is, let's go ahead and take a look at Dixie today. See how Dixie is doing. By the way, how many of you in chat actually watched yesterday's Staring at Charts pre-recorded video? I hope that you got a good idea of what it is that I'm looking for. If you didn't watch it, instead of rewatching this whole stream to find the relevant information that you're looking for, you can always rewatch it. The information is still going to be good even through close today. So I do suggest that you give it a watch if you haven't. Look at that, Dixie. You know, on Tuesday we were talking about it. You know, hanging in this area around 105. What did it eventually get to? I think it was just below 105 there. And then the next relevant area to pay attention to is 104.50. We saw it then come and settle in right here on this high at 104.26 in yesterday's price action. If it does drop it and the local range, you know, it's really this little consolidation prior to putting in the high. If it does start to drop around the basis, which is now at this wick low at 103.89, you know, then we can start stepping it down, look for like 103.60 to 103.50, possibly down to that lower first at 103.40. So kind of 103.60 to 103.40. Below there, we're looking to the lower second, which is right around the lows of this consolidation there. Coming in at basically 102.90 to 103. So I wouldn't look for too much more right off the bat, but if it did break below 103, we're looking 102.5 to 102 again, which is down here. If it does hang out above here, start regaining 104.5, 104.60, look to 105, and then 105.40 to 60 up here. Above there, we're looking for a run to 106. Pretty simple. Momentum has turned against it on the daily after getting that nice little move back up. Is there bearish divergence building? Absolutely. But no, actually, did it avoid it? It avoided it. Yeah, so no in-trend bearish divergence off of this new trend off the lows. So, this can hang out sideways. And if it does drop aggressively, I would actually be looking for it to get picked up, especially when looking at the weekly here. We're looking at 102. So unless it drops 102, we're looking at this as, downside moves likely to get picked up, at least from the daily perspective, and then come back to it. Now we're going to look at gold real quick here. So essentially, if Dixie gets above 104.5, we're looking 105 as being the big breaker area. If it can get above there, we're looking mid 105 to 106 area. To the downside, if you see 103 dropped, we're looking back to 102, but that's a pretty wide range for Dixie at the moment. Let's go ahead and look at commodities. We'll look at gold. We're going to clean up the gold chart here just because it's getting ugly. We're going to go to the monthly real quick, and we're going to define some criteria here. We've got a monthly swing, close open, and swing high here that is kind of defining what's going on. So if we were to look at the close open, you can take one of two close opens. You can take this close open over here, which is a little bit more charitable and was primary resistance until it was broken above. But I'm going to take this swing right here as that 1991 area as the really relevant one locally. And when defining this on a weekly, we'll see that it's not lining up exactly with the weeklies. So what we want to do is look back to this area and define that swing on the monthly on a close open to the swing higher high on a close, and this swing high up here that was defining kind of the closing structure here. So the main reason for doing this is to define a zone. And the main zone that I'm trying to define here is going to be the swing high to closing highs zone. And we see that we are trapped between that closing high over there and then the swing closing high. So the first higher highs that we put in over here that was holding price down prior to the run, that same zone is holding price down at $2,075 on a close. So if we do see closes above there, then we're looking back to fill out the 2100 to 2150 wick. And if this area here, which is a monthly, so we'll change this to orange because I typically keep the monthlies on orange. At 1991 is kind of the other big area to pay attention to, especially as we get deeper into February and March timeframe. There is, some precedent to be looking right here if you want to define that area a little bit more clearly. There's a nice weekly closing high, and that's lining up with the monthly that's more recent on a close. So what I'm trying to tell you is if 1991, 1988 has dropped, we're likely looking for, that 1960 region to get tagged. And I'm going to show you why in just a moment here. We've got 1950 being that really big area that we have here on this last higher low on the weekly. So this higher low on the weekly is at 1928 to a zone over here at around 1975 or so, but 1960 on the actual close open for the weeklies here to this swing low. So we're incorporating the high. We've got this high, we've got this high, right? To this swing low. If this area is lost, it is going to be a drawdown to around 1900. So it's very clear what's going on here, and I want you to kind of understand the methodology behind this. Closes are going to be more important than the swings right now. We're going to convert this back to a yellow line, but we're defining criteria for a potential break, because if we start seeing a bearish reclaim of this high over here on a close on the daily, as it relates to this weekly that we're marking up, we've got areas of interest. Specifically, if this high here on the weekly is dropped, then we're looking to this low, and if this low is dropped, then we have to start counting these next areas to the downside below 1900. But I am going to define these as important zones to watch, and then we're going to jump back into the daily real quick, and we're going to see how this kind of lines up. I want you to note how price action has interacted with these areas, as they were marked as monthly weeklies, with basically that monthly coming in at 2034 to that wick on the monthly that's defining the highs right now at 2075. You can see that this has acted as a resistance area multiple times after putting in the highs over here. We've seen 1, 2, 3 big swings, with multiple daily swings over here in March of 23, March, April, and then again we've seen quite a lot of price action and resistance in here, and from November of 2023 into the present. If we do see from the daily perspective here, if we do see price trading below this 1988, there is daily areas to pay attention to, and that is this low structure right here from around 1979 to 1973. Below there, we're looking into 1960 to 1928. So it can swing this area. And when you look left, you can see that there's a high over here as well that coincides with this swing low. So if you are on a daily time frame and you're trading gold, I would pay attention to this area around 1973 to 1975, because we do have highs that coincide with these lows over here that coincides with this low over here. So it is an important pivot area. But if we start seeing any kind of time frames like a weekly closing below 1988, it's likely going to start targeting this area down here in the mid to low 1900s. Now, that being said, on the daily, you can see that gold is bouncing off the lower second, third standard deviation zone. And it has the possibility, because of the 3-candle structure here, to put in a closing low. You'll see that populate on most indicators, RSI indicators that track highs and lows as pivots. We have a swing low already confirmed. If this can reclaim the open at 20, we'll call it 2020, which is right around that basis, I would mark it up. Well, it's about $4 above, $5 above, so 2025. Then I'd look right back to 2035, and then this was a rejective area locally, deviation into liquidity up there, and then rejected again on the daily. I'd be looking at that area to the upper first, which is basically 2035 to 2040. And above there, we're looking right back to the upper second by this closing high at around 2055, so 2050 to 2055. Above there, we're looking for the high side wick to get taken to go test the actual highs, and that is coming in at 2065. Now, the daily momentum pivot is probably going to start flipping coming into Monday's open. So I would watch this on Sunday. Technically, it opens on Sunday. So 2010 is the current pivot. It's trading around 2012. So I would watch how this closes today, and then gauge at least an initial cross back up on Monday. If this area holds as support, I would be targeting generally somewhere back around 2030, 2035, and then from there we could start looking up to the 2040 to 2055, 60 range, maybe a run for the actual local highs on a close, again at 2075 to 80, if it can complete a cross. Now, one of the bigger things that you do need to pay attention to is the weekly closing like this would also put in a high. So we do have, some issues with price in that regard. But I want you to note that it's still remaining bullish as long as it's closing above the basis that's more bullish than bearish. And in the context of the weekly, this can come all the way back to the lower first standard deviation. So keep that in mind. Lower first standard deviation is coming in the mid 1900s, so 1950. This is likely going to move up to 1960, so be aware of that. When this opens on Sunday, bands will likely move up to that level at around 1960. So that needed to be redone. One of the bigger things that I would say is, there is bearish divergence here, but that's pretty much already played out. If it's going to play out, you're going to see the lows break right around that 1988, 1990 region, which was tested into today. All right. Or not today. It was the other day. It was actually on Wednesday that it tested in there. All right. Let's go ahead and take a look at traditional markets, and then we'll do some requests. Please, only one at a time. All right. Yeah. So let's see. Cheryl says she's in the desert in California. Yeah, you don't need heat. That's for sure. Yeah, Dow, right back to the highs. Looks good. So local structure, we got a nice, if you want to look at swings versus closes, we had a lower low swing, low and close low as it relates to this last little closing low. And then deviation right back to the top side. But you can see on the daily here, no swing higher high and no close higher high as it stands right now. It's equal highs. So what I would watch out for is another drive of bearish divergence if this is going to head back down. If it does put in a high, you will see another drive of bearish divergence populate. Likely, Stoke is down 38,842. We're looking at, keeping an eye on the basis to the daily lower first, again, right around this last swing low. So we're looking at 38 to 38.1 at the lower first, or 38 to 38.2. Basis coming in at around 38.4. If that area is lost, then we're looking down to the lower second, which is this swing low and close low over here at around 37,800 or so initially, and then we come back to it later. Remember, this close was right on top of the highs here, so the high wicks and this high open up there that was a bear candle, but looks good still strong above the upper first, around the upper first, above the basis. I would actually look for this to consolidate a bit more if it does head down towards that basis. Coming into next week, looks fine so far though, no big deal there. We do see lower high in a swing on, so we see the trend changing on the daily. Basically, we have a lower high swing, but it's actually it's not even confirmed technically. We have a lower high, higher low swing in play here, so this is looking more like consolidation than not. But if we did see a close below this open, which is also yesterday's wick low at 17,722, keep an eye on the basis around 17,600. Below there, this swing low right here at 17,500 to around that lower first at 17,400. It's 390 to 4. That area was dropped. We look back to the lower second and this close open and swing low down here at 17 to 17.2 is generally what I'd be looking for. If it does put in a little bit of a sideways chop, we do see that it's just a swing high to a swing low. It's not even confirmed swing yet, and the reason why it's not a confirmed high or swing is it hasn't closed yet. But if it closes below 17,722 rather, then we would be looking at a closing high as well. If we can trade back above the swing high at 17,864, I'd look right back to the highs around the upper second again at around 18,000. You know, if this does drop, in particular this swing low all the way over here at any point at around 17,128 to 17, I'm looking generally high 16s to 17 then as being the zone of interest. So 16.8 to 17. Yeah, nothing too crazy. Nothing too crazy there. It's been pretty darn predictable, to be quite honest, and it needs a pullback and consolidation at the very least. 18,009 is the pivot. We haven't seen this high confirm. As I said, it's got to close below 17,722 in order to actually initiate that closing high being in. Still doesn't mean much. Still bullish. It's above the basis as long as it's closing above 17.6. And even I would expect coming into next week probably even above the lower first, because we're likely to see compression of the lower first into this swing low. So you could say even 17.5. As long as it's trading and closing above there, it's going to be bullish up and to the right over time. If it does drop it, we're looking probably mid to low 17s, upper 16s again. Weekly is probably going to support that, by the way. Yeah, 17,778. It's going to turn down, but the upper first is right there at 17.3. So, mid to low 17s would be in play coming into next week anyway. And we're starting to see that is a distinct possibility. Not a given, but a distinct possibility after today's close. Looking at SPY swung the high on a close, did close on higher highs, but did not beat the wick there. So that does mean, it's more likely to head down, but that doesn't mean it's going to. It does make it more likely. If it drops the upper first at 499.03, I would be looking right back to at minimum this close open right here at around 494, 495 to that basis at 492 currently. If it does drop 490, we're looking to the lower first, and that's somewhere around 45, 46. Below there, we're looking back to the prior all-time high by the lower second around 480. And the dailies playing out bearish divergences locally for this move, so it might be ready to go and mean revert a bit here. And we can see that 46 is actually the upper first. If that's dropped, we're looking 480 to 470. Below there, the basis coming in at 460. That is going to move up. So right now you need to see it hold for sideways and up and continuation to the upside. You need to see it holding at minimum 486 to 490, and then of course it's got to go take out the its local swing high and then its actual all-time high swing high. So local swing highs from today at 502.87, and then we've got 503.50 to go test somewhere around 505 by the upper second. And again, still strong above the basis and upper first. It is bullish. So all right, let's go ahead and jump back into Bitcoin on our Friday chill stream here. Let me go ahead and read the chat real quick. Sam said he doesn't think many people bought the dip at 15.5. I'm assuming you're talking about Bitcoin and not NASDAQ, but I don't know. I was talking with a whole lot of people that were buying there. Myself included. You can go back through the live stream archive and we talked all about it. A lot. Specifically, I stated it as between $15,000 and $16,000. With the potential for more if 15K broke down and is slightly lower into 14.5, and most derivative exchanges hit those downside areas anyway, but I'm more referring to spot. All right, so injective, do you really want me to look at bonk, Cheryl? I can look at bonk, I guess. But yeah, we can look at injective, we can look at bonk if that's really what Cheryl wants. should have injective on here. I don't on this one. It's probably just because I charted on exchange. And I'm assuming, you should never assume, but I'm going to say you probably want to go with Tether on Binance. There's no sense in doing perpetuals on this. It's a pretty bullish structure on the daily, to be quite honest. Yeah, as long as it's holding 29.50 or so. Yeah, 29 to 29.50. As long as it's holding that area, this is a bullish consolidation and more likely to try to head up than down. If it can take out the local high here at 37, I'd be looking for it to eventually run back to its highs around 40 to 45 bucks. So pretty easy. This is easy. Easy peasy. You know, some people are going to have their invalidation criteria for this thing all the way at 30. But realistically, its line in the sand is down here at 28.33 to this close over here. Bobby mentions, yeah, you can take the crypto trading chart as well. Maybe that might be better to take a look at volume. Yeah, I'd say 29.5 is probably, if it starts losing that area, it's over. You're going to get expansion into that area, and any closes below 31.13 right now for the Bollinger Band set. So you'd be looking, you know, somewhere around the lower second and third. You could see that if it did spike into that area in the shorter term time frames, likely to get picked up. Doesn't mean it will, but likely. If it could take out this this high here by the upper second, around 37.5, you're looking, looking to 39 to 40 basically, and then 39 to 40 and possibly even up to 45. If it starts to take out 45, of course, it's going to get heavy expansion. This will get expansion on any closes above this most recent high at 39.45. You'll see very good expansion. And then, of course, if it was to hold in higher low fashion, you'd have trend on your side as well. Likely looking for a breakout on expansion. I would still pay very close attention to the top side, though. Not anything too nuts going on there. Weekly consolidation. What you do want to see is if it's going to consolidate in a bullish manner. You know, it could, from the weekly perspective, it could drop down to 25 bucks and be fine, but it would probably fall further into the $20 region, so 20 to 25 bucks. That's, you know, this thing is still even bullish if it drops down to this swing down by the lower first. It's still bullish. Is it bullish locally? No. Is it looking for a longer form consolidation at that point? Absolutely. This was big expansion into mean reversion now. 38.41 would turn that back up on the weekly. Daily is looking like it actually wants to turn down on any closes below 34 bucks. So I would keep an eye on this. You could get a bullish reset on the daily if it holds the local lows, but if it doesn't, it's game over. Probably looking 25 to 20 bucks. All right, so let me go ahead and basically, if it could take out, recover above its rejection today at 35, 85, 36, test into that 37, probably quickly going to find it in and around the $40 range again. Above there, keep an eye on 45, because it'll run after that, that's for sure. It's a nice big accumulation looking structure here. else is it about? Oh, you guys are talking about Bitcoin stuff. Basically, you know, anything under 20K was my recommendation, not financial advice at the time, was to pick up anything Bitcoin, you know, related under 20K. Just as a general statement. And then for trades, of course, there was plenty of trading to be done off of those lows down there. Even when it first spiked around 17. Now you don't want me to look at bonk? Oh, jeez. Here I was getting ready to type it all out. Now the keyboard is pretty far away from me, to be fair. I'll look at it. We'll use TradingView for this. We didn't do volume on Injective, but Injective's you know, a decent project if you're into crypto projects. So if you just like the coin, man, then you know, you'll be able to weather most of the storm there if it does occur to the downside. Bonk looks like it's bonked its head on its upper second here locally. Did it run? Yeah, it ran this closing high or low right here, which is this wick high over here, which has basically defined the bottom side of this range. So, you know, bonk looks like such a minuscule number that I'm not able to read it. But basically 148 is what it needs to recover above. If it can do so and take out the swing high that coincides with this swing low. Nice recovery there around 17.45 to 17.5. I would be looking for this to get a markup to around 22 to the highs at 34, 35 there. Of course, we're not talking about dollars or cents, we're talking about fractions of a penny. If it does drop these swings, though, it's probably over for a little while. Pretty big markdown below 0.9293 area. It does look like it's headed down. For momentum, weekly is looking tired. Not much to show here. Yeah, as long as it can hold its lows here, it's looking fine, to be quite honest. The weekly's lining up for an upside swing on Stoke anyway. So after a big move up, weeks of consolidation, you would expect if it could take out its highs, it's going to go test local all-time high for this chart and then keep moving on. We can look at render because I know that somebody else wanted to look at render. Bonk is actually performed very well, though, because it's a meme, right? I believe it's a meme. Maybe it's got some real utility, I don't know. Render, on the other hand, does have real utility. Not really looking at market cap, but it is interesting that there's like 2 billion in render right now. That is a lot. It's gonna catch up. Yeah, so you can see how it reacted to what we charted last time. Recovered above $3, hit 330, found $3 as a to 305 as support. That's continued to be support. The basis is above there as well. Very nice. Basis is coming in right at this last swing low. So basically on the close here at 363, it's looking good. All the way down to $3. If it loses $3, then it's looking at 275 to 250. If it can take out it's in an upswing right now on the daily. If it can take out the upper second 570, then it's looking like it might want to march a little bit. What do we have up there? 541 had already swung. So it might even want to march into like the 6 to, oh god, that spike highs at 666. But somewhere in the $6 to $6.50 range, maybe more. I don't think this is the longest chart for this by any stretch. You'll have to let me know if there is another.
The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
Is KuCoin going to be longer? It is. Yeah, no, this is a good chart. Looks good from the weekly perspective too. Pushing that upper second, riding high on that upper first. Turn back up above 450. I would be aware of bearish divergence populating in the coming weeks, though, even if this does head up. Yeah, this looks okay. And it's trading above its pivot for momentum right now. We're not seeing in trend, so what you're going to see is a lot of bearish divergence populate. It's this downtrend to uptrend. We haven't seen bearish divergence populate. This is quite a rejection on the daily, though. Yeah, as long as it's above $5 right now, it's looking okay. Downside risk is going to be that $3, and as long as it's above $3 on the dailies and weeklies coming up here, then it's more than likely to keep marching up into the right. If you want some like deeper targets on it, I would say weekly fib is going to be just this move. You know, there was no real high here outside of a swing high. So it'd be this move prior to putting in the higher low. And then you can fib that. Please use log. It's right up against its 100%. So it's right up against the highs. If it breaks it, you know, potentially looking 6 to 6.5. And then the 1272s coming in just under $8 at $7.81. 1414 is coming in at around $9.50, $9.60. 1618's up there at 12, almost $13. You know, for longer term stuff. You're looking for stacks, Bobby? You want you want Binance for stacks? We're gonna go spot. Man, that's a nice weekly. I mean, it looks like it wants 340, 350 to be quite honest. And above there, same kind of deal. This was not a closing high, it was a swing high to swing low. So you could take this whole move down to the lows on the fib, and you can see that it's on its way to the 1272, which happens to be the highs, so around 320, 350, up to $4 around the 1414. Potentially 550, 1618's up there, 570, but I would be looking back to the highs again here. This looks very nice if it can close here this week at around 250 or above. Anywhere above 220 is above the upper second. Looks very nice. From the daily perspective, can it step back? Yep. I'd like to see it remaining above around 215 to its prior high over here at around 206. It does swing it. It's fine. It's still good even above around 175, 178 for the 888 and the basis there. Looks good. The daily is getting a momentum turn coming off of this trend change, we haven't seen any bearish divergence. I do like multiple drives of bearish divergence when looking for a full-on reversal. This is more than likely going to pull into higher low territory, and then we just got to watch it. You know, if it does put in a higher low, got to watch most recent high. You don't want to see lower highs from there because we could see a trend change with lower highs to trend break and beginning a downtrend. From the weekly perspective, though, it's so strong that I would say that it's, you know, close above 228 turns momentum to the upside. So it would look like it's remaining strong. It's even just now hanging around the upper second. 251 is the upper second. If we can keep up there, and especially above the upper first, it's up and to the right for this. Looks very good. Because nobody else is requesting, I will look at the next one. I am sitting so far away from that keyboard. I'm just relaxing right now. Yeah, Naka looks good. It's headed. You know, these are all coins that I own too. I don't know if that's why you're picking them, because you know that I know some of these coins pretty well. Yeah, I mean, it looks strong. It's probably going to pull back soon. 185 is the pivot. I guess it's not today. We're looking for at minimum continuation, and in March has broke these highs. It's even above this high here, and it's, you know, upper seconds, you know, well in play here. Coming in at 205 as it trades at $2. Above there, we're looking to 220 to 230 up here by the upper third, and that overhead resistance looks really good. This is more likely than not to pull back into, at minimum, swing higher low and closing higher low. You know, somewhere around the basis would be just fine, around 150, 160, as long as it's holding above this support area here. Beautiful trend change off the lows. What's the weekly looking like? Weekly's looking ready to turn 171. It's above the upper first. Yeah, so the highs, the local highs, it put in a beautiful swing, beautiful close low. So the highs are in play. You know, 211 to the actual highs there at 220 to 225 at the upper second, possibly 230. And then it starts opening up this liquid zone up top there, all the way up to like $3. Looks good. Very strong. Weekly is looking ready to turn. I like it. I like it a lot. The downside risk is you don't want to see this losing like $1.50. You can see that below $1.50 you got the weekly basis, but if that gets dropped, it's likely to come all the way down to $1.15 or even $1 down here by the lower first. So you do want to see this get continuation and a weekly close above 182 by the upper first, and then it's looking good to keep testing the highs and higher. Local highs and higher, I should say. Beautiful. Looks good. I'm trying to remember when I actually bought this because it was a while ago. This was gonna go to the weekly chart here. This was probably, yeah, it was 22 into 23. So I was buying around the actual lows. Nice. I appreciate that because I believe that one of you guys in chat here actually recommended I look into it. Did some research and swept the floor on a lot of stuff like this. 22 into 23. Late 22 into 23 at the time. RSR is still alive? It didn't die? You're kidding. We can look at RSR. Guess we're doing multiples. Oh, it's only on Binance. Wow. Holy Jesus. Rode the roller coaster to hell. I mean, to be fair, it's probably bottomed here at 0.00165 or whatever that is down there. 162. Oof. Man. Just imagine you're a buyer. You're like, man, it's going to go to $1. It's at 11 cents. And then, bye-bye. Ouch. That is the roller coaster of death right there. I could have swore this. I'm glad you mentioned it's still alive. I thought this had died. It definitely got freaking rugged all to hell, that's for sure. I mean, somebody's trying to keep this thing alive. They're creating local structure. To be fair, it's if it can get above 0.0028 to 0.003 cents, you know, it can go to 0.0032 cents and possibly even 0.0035 and maybe even 0.0038 to 4. But this is not a confidence inspiring. It's like, it's all going to turn around now. Just look at the weekly. It's higher low structure. It's going to take out the highs and it's going to run to the moon. We're finally going to get to $1. No, probably not. You got a request for Link. Let's go ahead and take a look at Link. Oh, Stinky Linky, how you doing? That's not the one. Looks good. Yep, looks good. It has took out our highs here and it hit our upper second that we talked about at $20. A little over $20. 20.85. Upper seconds coming in at 20.80. You know, this is likely. Yeah, I mean, this is just a back test. As long as it's trading above and closing above $18, you know, it's even got room technically. From a technical point of view, it's got room down to the upper first. This is likely going to move up to 18, but for now, it's got room down to 17.55. Still bullish, even if it dropped that area, came back in a range around the basis at 14.30. I would be careful, but it would still be bullish from the weekly perspective at that point, but we might see other time frames turn around. So the big thing is to get over this $20.72 high over here from August of 2020, and then it's quite honestly, we're probably looking like $25 pretty quickly. 25 to 30. As long as it's above 18 at this point is kind of my criteria. I don't want to see the basis on the daily lost. Although it still could come down a little bit from there. From the daily perspective, it could swing all the way down to the lower first. I'm going to put it on top of the highs though. Yeah, we're looking at like 16.75. So need to see 16 to 75 to 18 hold. From here, we're probably looking, you know, above the local high. Probably looking, you know, low $20, but eventually 25, and then 30, 25 to 30 starts to open up. All right, Spin, take care. Have a great weekend, bud. Yeah. No, it did the... Okay, so... we can look at that. Yeah, I didn't look at the quant stuff. You know, taker buy sell ratio is, you know, it's a little bit dipped below the one spot here, but it's not critical in either direction. It did get critical when Bitcoin was trading over 52. It was in the like 1.4 area. So after the high was put in on the 15 minute, you saw that come down substantially. It has turned red since then. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with the ticker buy sell ratio right now. Open interest is in a consolidation on the hourly, so there's not much to be made of that here. It's around 14 bill, and more importantly, you want to see CME above the degenerate traders at Binance, and all of these other Mickey Mouse exchanges. As long as they're leading the market, things are going to be pretty well structured. And if over the weekend we see Binance get above CME in terms of open interest, then they can move the market at least. Take the time to do so. Yeah. That support level is coming in at 51,789 is the weekly here that Bitcoin's trying to hold on to. Weekend price action's actually been pretty good lately. Yeah. You want to see the bands with support and resistance on the weekly? Sure. That's upper second standard deviations right at this weekly at 51.8. Upper first is right there at the monthly at 45.5. So perfect in terms of the way it's lining up for Bitcoin. So upper first in the monthly, bottom side of the monthly zone at 45.5. Upper second right at the top of this weekly at 51.8. We saw the wick through it, basically right into that September of 2021 weekly swing high, just under 53. Yep. I do suggest that you jump over to the YouTube chat, yeah, because I have to go manually look at Twitch chat. So I have no idea when you asked that question. That's what I'm trying to say. What's up, Cheryl? What happened? Got to give me more info than that. I'm waiting for you to catch up. What happened, Cheryl? What are we stopping? I think you might be running behind on the stream. TLM is still alive. We might as well check out the absolute trash from prior markets. Oh my god. And it's listed on multiple exchanges, including MEXC, which is your ultimate B-book exchange, and they're terrible. Sorry if you are an affiliate of MEXC, but yeah, you are shilling for a garbage exchange that B-books. Oh dear. It's actually in higher low structure on the daily and weekly, just like the other garbage we were looking at. But yeah, this is the roller coaster to hell. Man. Launched basically right at the highs, right after the highs for a lot of these, when it was listed, at least in many cases, outside of swaps. And then, the initial holders dump all over everybody till infinity. This was a rug, if I remember correctly, wasn't it? This thing's trading down at a penny. opened at like $8-9. I want to say it was swapping for more at one point. And then bye-bye. That sucks. More info on miners, please. I think you might be behind on the stream over there. Yeah. I covered quite a bit on the miners. And I do suggest that everyone at least checks it out, even if you have an old laptop. Get Bitcoin Core downloaded. Check it out. Learn. So, all right, I think that's probably going to do it for today. If nobody else has anything else here or any other questions, I'm going to let you all go, and we will reconvene on Monday during the live stream. Then I will try to get a recorded video out this weekend to give you my updated thoughts on what I'm seeing as price develops, especially after close on Saturday. So keep in mind that we have a 2-day, 3-day, and 4-day closure all coming in on Saturday's close. So that is something to watch for. Yep. All right. I think that's going to do it for today. I hope you all have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, as well as a wonderful weekend this weekend. And I, of course, will, as I said, try to get a video out after Saturday's close. Not a guarantee, but I will definitely try. I will leave the stream running for a little bit here. We'll get it going we'll give it about 10 minutes. For those of you that like to hang out and watch the stream or scrub back and update your charts or go through or walk through what we were talking about in today's stream, you're more than welcome to. So that'll be up for a little bit, about 10 minutes or so. And yeah, hope everyone has a wonderful one. Oh, this didn't actually restart. Let's go ahead and restart that. And yeah, I'll catch up with you guys again and gals on Monday. So take care. Landy out.